Well, we're looking at the Philips Respironics Trilogy Evo ventilator, EVO. This is the newest version that we're looking at here. We'll just go around the machine a little bit and just show you a little bit about it. You notice right here we've got a sine wave. It's indicating that we're plugged into AC power. And our power light, if it's on, is right here. There's our power button. Alarm silence for 60 seconds. This is just the audible alarm that it would cancel for 60 seconds. There's also right on the top, it's hard to see maybe, but there's a light bar, and that'll flash. This is new on the Evo. Wasn't on the old Trilogy. That will flash with any alarm. That can be turned on or off. It doesn't need to be on, but it's a nice option. There's a flip-up handle on the top here. That's nice to be able to pick up the ventilator. If we go around this side, we can see the airflow outlet. It's marked with the attachment for the patient right here. Here we've got a connection for USB. And then we've got, depending on the type of circuit that we're going to use, if we're using an active circuit, this is where our pressure line would go. And with the active circuit, this is where our exhalation valve would be attached. And here we've got a connection for monitoring devices, CO2 and end-tidal CO2 and that type of thing. We'll go ahead and go around to the back of the machine. And we've got a washable filter, notably larger than the Trilogy. A large filter here can also be taken off with there's a cap that goes on also. That can be screwed back into place, so you can do that either way. Take that out and clean it. Of course, all filters, make sure that they're very dry before they go back in. It just attaches here. And if we keep going around, there's our power input. The power cord is the same from the Trilogy, except this is a straight one instead of a right angle, but they connect the same two prongs. And then we've got oxygen here, same oxygen adapter from the Trilogy. That goes on the side here. We've got another access point for both the USB and mini USB. And then there is the alarm speaker. This is the remote alarm. That's where that would plug in with that phone jack type connector. And down from that is the detachable battery. We can pull that out under the rubber cover here, and here's the detachable. The batteries in the Evo, a big increase in time. This battery will go operate the ventilator for about 7 hours, and then 7 hours on the internal battery also. So we've got a total of about 14 or maybe 15 hours on the vent. Battery slides in like that, similar to the Trilogy, a different location of course. They plug in like that. And then we've got our DC input here. So if we're going to use a car adapter or an external battery of any sort, this is where that would plug in. So we'll go ahead and turn it around. You can see the front of the ventilator. And then the attachment we'll use today, just for the demonstration, I've got a passive circuit. I'm going to go ahead and attach that here so we can start the ventilator in a little bit, get things working. Let's go ahead and hit the power button, and we can show you the menu on the inside. Notice we get the light, we get a beep whenever you start the ventilator. And the ventilator comes up with the last settings that were on it, and notice that it comes on in standby mode. This is an important distinction between the Trilogy 100, 200 and the Evo. The Evo comes on in standby mode. So in order to start ventilation, I would hit that. And this is a touchscreen. So if I want to start ventilation, I can actually touch that. And instead of having the buttons down here like on the Trilogy, we could actually touch the screen to go ahead and start ventilation. Once ventilation is begun, you can see that I've got the display here showing the pressure bar. It is showing the peak inspiratory pressure. The VTE will come up here in a little bit after it picks up an average. and then our respiratory rate is displayed here also. So again, just like the Trilogy, anything we see on the screen here is our measurements. They're not settings. So these are the measurements on the ventilator. Over on the side, we've got additional data. So depending on how you wanted to view that, right up in this corner, it says views, and there's layered icons for us to choose from. So we can go ahead and tap that, and we've got a variety of different views we can have. We can have a very minimal view, just showing pressure. You can see that operating. Or we can go and show a lot more data and not see the pressure bar. Probably the most common one that I've seen that people like is something like this, where they see the pressure bar and then all the data is displayed here, so that you can pick and choose whatever you like in order to monitor the patient, which makes it very handy. Down here, where there's a lock, and right now it's showing that the ventilator is unlocked. There's a padlock symbol. I hope you can see that on the video, and that padlock is open right now. Typically the way we operate our ventilators, so that they can be accessed, the menu can be accessed easily. And then we've got batteries, and right here it shows our internal has 5 hours and 53 minutes left, and our detachable has just a little over 6 hours left on it. So that's pretty handy to be able to just go right in there and monitor those. And next to that, we can go in and lock and unlock the screen, which at this point we don't need to do because everything is open at this time. And there's our time displayed here. Across the top, this is our home screen, so that's where we are right now. We can choose to go into the menu so that I can go into actual settings. So this is where we would go if we needed to change a setting. So if we're going to go through, let's say we got an order and the doctor changed the breath rate, which we can see right here is at 12. If we wanted to change that, we could just go and tap the breath rate. And if you notice down here, it says breath rate, and it gives us a sliding scale right here, and then a plus and minus. You can actually grab the icon there and move it, or you can just use the minus and plus buttons over here in order to change that. Any changes that are made are not accepted until you hit the apply button. So hit the apply button and you're all set. And that locks that in, so now we're at the rate of 14. So there's not a lot different. If you're familiar with the Trilogy, these settings are going to be very familiar to you. So what we've got is, right now we're in the assist control mode, volume, and we've got a volume displayed here, respiratory rate, flow pattern, the ramp flow pattern. The trigger type right now is manual trigger type flow trigger, and that is set at 5. We've got options here where we, just like before, we can choose auto track, or we can choose auto track sensitive. Remember, whatever trigger type we choose, it always is flow trigger. It's just whether or not it's automatic or manual setting. So right now we'll just choose that the trigger type to be flow trigger, and we'll leave it at that. So that's what we're at, flow trigger, and at a number of 5. PEEP is set at 5, inspiratory time. So you get the idea. If we needed to change that, change our inspiratory time, we could go a little quicker that way and adjust back and forth. Pretty easy to go through. So these are all the settings, the usual settings. If we needed to look at the alarms, we hit the alarm bell right there, and this shows us the various alarms. We've got inspiratory, high and low pressure, and we have disconnect. Disconnect is just like on the Trilogy, is time delay for disconnect for a high leak. And then we also have low VTE, high VTE, low minute ventilation and high minute ventilation, and then of course respiratory rate. So these shown are some very common alarm settings that are used. on the machine. And then, following along, if we want to keep going from home to going into the settings, we can also go, if we hit the wrench, it'll take us into the options menu. And in the options menu, there's several things we can look at. For device options, we can go in here and look at different, like the language, the volume of the alarm, automatic touchscreen lock. We can change the menu level access to limited, which would mean that we need to unlock the ventilator in that case. And let me just show you how to unlock the ventilator. We don't need to do it now, but if menu access was in limited, we wouldn't be able to get into the menu. In order to unlock it, it's the power button and the clock right here. So I'm not going to do it now, but you would touch both of those at the same time, wait a few seconds, and it would unlock the screen. And you'd be able to change it if you wanted to. It would let you in to make changes, or you could change the menu then to full access to leave it open all the time, which is where it is now, so we can access the screen at any time. But you can see if we wanted to enable Bluetooth, if we wanted to turn that on, I would turn that on here by hitting the touch screen and hitting the on button in order to turn on Bluetooth, and then hit the check mark to accept it. So now Bluetooth is enabled on this one. We can add a screensaver so that the screen goes dark or dim, whatever we want to do. And that light bar for the alarm up here, we can turn on and off by using this. So we'll leave that on for right now. Notice while the vent is running, we're actually displaying some parameters over here too, so we can keep track even while we're in the menu of how the patient is doing on the ventilator. And we'll go back into this screen. And some other options. We've got data transfer, if we need to export data to a USB or different options like that, which isn't used real often, but usually we are using the Bluetooth and being able to get data off of Care Orchestrator. Calibration and setup, we can go in here and we can calibrate our circuit, whether it's a passive circuit or an active circuit, and CO2 and oxygen sensors too, if they're used. And then we've got information. This is just information on the ventilator. This is where we would go to be able to find the serial number and software numbers and that kind of thing. And also add a photograph and that kind of thing for the background of the unit. And calibration we did. Alarm and event logs. We can look here for those. So that shows us all the different setting changes and alarms that have happened. And then prescription preferences, we can go in here and choose prescriptions. So in the next video, what we'll do is we'll cover how to go in and start a brand new patient. But this is how you would choose your different prescriptions, one way to do it. And we'll go back to the home screen here. Home will always bring you back to where you're just monitoring the patient and patient values here. Any alarms, let's say we have an alarm on the ventilator, clearing it, like right now we have AC power disconnected. I'll just hit this to reset it, and that clears that display. The alarms that show up, if I were to cause an alarm here, I'll disconnect our test lung so we can get an alarm on our vent. You would get an audible alarm, and we get the light bar along with the flash here. I can temporarily, if I hit audio pause, I can turn off the audible, and then I can also hit reset here to clear it. And it'll come back on again, of course, because we still haven't corrected the problem. But there's our alarms. We'll let that clear. And then we'll go back to reset. And in the next video, we'll cover how to start a new patient on the ventilator.